Question 271. According to a deed of trust, the trustor is the person who A. Lends the funds, B. Signs the promissory note as its maker, C. Extends credit, D. Holds the funds in trust for the borrower. Correct answer is B. Signs the promissory note as its maker. Trustor, borrower, is the person who borrows the money and pledges the property as security for the loan. They sign the promissory note, promising to repay the debt. They convey the naked legal title to the trustee. Beneficiary, lender, is the person or entity who lends the money. They hold the promissory note and are the recipient of the loan payments. Trustee, neutral third party, is a neutral third party, often a title company or escrow company, who holds the naked legal title to the property on behalf of the beneficiary until the loan is repaid. If the trustor defaults, the trustee has the power to initiate foreclosure proceedings on behalf of the beneficiary. Therefore, the trustor is the one who takes out the loan and signs the promissory note. Question 272. A purchase money mortgage refers to A. When a buyer takes out a mortgage on the property being purchased to secure the loan. B. When a buyer gives the seller a mortgage on the property being purchased and pays the sale price in installment payments. C. A soft money mortgage, D. All of the above. Correct answer is D. All of the above. A. When a buyer takes out a mortgage on the property being purchased to secure the loan. This is the most common understanding of a purchase money mortgage. The buyer obtains a loan from a third-party lender, like a bank or credit union, to finance the purchase of the property, and the property itself serves as collateral for the loan. B. When a buyer gives the seller a mortgage on the property being purchased and pays the sale price in installment payments. This is known as seller financing or owner financing. Instead of obtaining a loan from a traditional lender, the seller acts as the lender, and the buyer gives the seller a mortgage, or deed of trust, on the property. C. A soft money mortgage. Soft money often refers to a loan provided by a seller to a buyer as part of the purchase transaction. This aligns with the concept of seller financing described in option B. While soft money mortgage isn't as formal a term as purchase money mortgage, it describes a similar scenario within the context of a purchase. Therefore, all three options accurately describe different forms or aspects of a purchase money mortgage. Question 273. A real estate broker may act as an escrow holder, without having a California Department of Corporations, DOC, license, if the broker A. is a party to the transaction, B. has the consent of the other parties to do so, C. is performing an act for which a license is required, as the listing or selling broker, D. either A or C. Correct answer is D. Either A or C. A real estate broker can act as an escrow holder without a Department of Corporations, DOC, license in two specific situations. A. as a party to the transaction. If the broker is directly involved as a principal in the transaction, e.g., buying or selling property for themselves, they can act as the escrow holder. C. is performing an act for which a license is required, as the listing or selling broker. When the broker is acting as the agent for one of the parties in the transaction, they can also act as the escrow holder. It is very important to remember that even though the broker is exempt from the DOC license, they still must follow all the regulations regarding escrow. Question 274. A homeowner deciding whether to add an outdoor patio to his home consults an appraiser. That appraiser's recommendation will be based on the principle of A. regression, B. progression, C. contribution, D. substitution. Correct answer is C. contribution. Principle of regression states that the value of higher valued properties tends to decrease when located near lower valued properties. Principle of progression states that the value of lower valued properties tends to increase when located near higher valued properties. Principle of substitution states that a buyer will pay no more for a property than the cost of an equally desirable substitute. Principle of contribution states that the value of any component of a property is determined by its contribution to the overall value of the property. In the context of the patio, the appraiser will assess how much the patio will add to the property's market value, which might be more or less than the actual cost of construction. The appraiser will look at how similar patios in the neighborhood have affected property values. It will help decide whether the value added by the patio is greater than the cost of building it. Question 275. A life estate whose duration is measured by the life of someone other than the estate holder is called a life estate pure autre vie, b. Junior life estate, c. Term tenancy for life, d. A life estate must be measured by the life of the holder. Correct answer is a life estate pure autre vie. Junior life estate and term tenancy for life are not as standard legal terms. A life estate must be measured by the life of the holder. While this is the most common form of life estate, a life estate pure autre vie is a recognized legal concept. Life estate pure autre vie is a French term meaning, for the life of another. It describes a life estate where the duration of the estate is measured by the life of someone other than the life tenant, the person holding the life estate. For example, Person A could grant Person B a life estate that lasts as long as Person C is alive. Question 276. RESPA's purpose is to A. Aid consumers to become better shoppers for settlement services, b. Provide low-income property buyers with subsidies to help pay closing costs, c. Eliminate kickbacks that unnecessarily increase settlement services costs, d. Both A and C. Correct answer is D. Both A and C. RESPA stands for Real Estate Settlement Procedures Act, which is a federal law that requires mortgage brokers, lenders, and servicers to disclose costs and expectations to borrowers about the real estate settlement process. RESPA was passed in 1974 to protect home buyers and sellers, and to provide consumers with improved disclosures of settlement costs. RESPA typically covers the following: title searches, title examinations, title certificates, title insurance, attorney services, property surveys, credit reports, inspections, and mortgage origination. RESPA prohibits kickbacks and referral fees that can artificially inflate the cost of settlement services. Therefore, both of these are primary purposes of RESPA. Question 277. In appraisal, the reproduction approach uses this method to examine separate items of construction to build an accurate estimate of the building's total value. A. Quantitative survey method, b. Total cost method, c. Duplication method, d. Comparison method. Correct answer is a quantitative survey method. Quantity survey is the most reliable method for estimating the cost of replacing a construction improvement. This method involves a detailed analysis of all the materials and labor required to reproduce an exact replica of the subject property. Appraisers using this method essentially take off or count all the materials needed, lumber, bricks, etc., and calculate the labor costs involved in constructing the building from scratch. This is the most detailed and accurate, and therefore most time-consuming, way to perform the reproduction cost approach. This method should be utilized by an appraiser well-versed in construction techniques. Question 278. Which is the most significant factor when planning for a subdivision? A. Location analysis, b. Market analysis, c. Community development analysis, d. Cost analysis. Correct answer is B. Market analysis. Location is very important, but if there is no market for the homes, then it does not matter how good the location is. Market analysis should come first, then a location that meets the needs of the market should be chosen. Community development analysis important for gaining community approval and ensuring compatibility. It's secondary to market demand. Cost is a factor but must be considered in light of market demand. A low-cost subdivision with no buyers is not viable. A thorough market analysis is crucial because it determines whether there is sufficient demand for the type of housing being planned. It involves studying factors such as current and projected population growth, income levels, housing preferences, competition from other developments, absorption rates. Without a solid understanding of the market, a subdivision project is likely to fail, regardless of its location, community impact, or cost. Therefore, market analysis is the more inclusive term. It includes the other options. Question 279. With a dual agency established in a 1 to 4 unit residential sale, the broker and her agent may provide information regarding the from one party to the other. A. Prices of comparable homes. B. The highest amount that a buyer is willing to offer. C. The least amount that a buyer is willing to offer. D. None of the above. Correct answer is A. Prices of comparable homes. In a dual agency, the broker represents both the buyer and the seller, creating a conflict of interest. To mitigate this, dual agents have limited disclosure obligations. They cannot disclose confidential information that would harm either party. However, they can provide factual information that is publicly available, such as the prices of comparable homes. The highest amount a buyer is willing to offer, B, and the least amount a seller is willing to accept, C, are considered confidential information. Disclosing these would breach the fiduciary duty of confidentiality. Providing information about comparable sales is considered factual information that helps both the buyer and the seller make informed decisions. Therefore, only the prices of comparable homes can be provided. Question 280. The promise given in return for an offered promise in a bilateral contract is A. Acceptance. B. Obligatory trust. C. Partial performance. D. Consideration. Correct answer is D. Consideration. Obligatory trust is not a standard legal term in contract law. Acceptance is the act of agreeing to the terms of an offer. While acceptance is necessary for a contract to be formed, it's not the promise given in return. It's a step that occurs after consideration is established. Partial performance refers to the fulfillment of some, but not all, of the obligations under a contract. It's not the promise itself. Partial performance can sometimes be considered in complex contractual situations, but it's not the general requirement for consideration. In contract law, consideration is something of value given by each party to a contract in exchange for the other party's promise or performance. In a bilateral contract, both parties make promises, and each party's promise serves as the consideration for the other party's promise. Consideration can be in the form of money, property, or a promise, not just partial completion of the promised action. Consideration refers to the legal value that each party exchanges in return for the other's promise.